The first hint that Marcus's quiet evening would unravel came as a low buzz against the window, a faint vibration that didn't match the soft hum of the city beyond his loft. He paused with a glass of bourbon halfway to his lips, the ice clinking against crystal. The former Army Ranger had trained himself to notice the smallest shift in his environment, and this one carried the subtle thrum of trouble. A second buzz followed, an alert from the encrypted phone he'd locked in his desk months ago, a device he'd sworn never to use again. Marcus set the glass down and crossed the room, his bare feet soundless on polished wood. The message on the screen was nothing but a set of coordinates and a single word: run. For a heartbeat he stood frozen, the decades of discipline warring with the sudden jolt of adrenaline. Run from what? From whom? He'd left the clandestine life behind years ago, trading missions in foreign deserts for quiet evenings and late-night jazz records. Yet the chill creeping across his spine whispered that old ghosts don't rest easily. He yanked open a drawer and retrieved a small go bag, its contents already arranged from muscle memory: spare cash, burner phone, compact handgun, a folded photo of his daughter Clara smiling under a summer sun. Clara, his only thought. She was away at a friend's apartment on the other side of town. He dialed her immediately. No answer. Again, nothing. The buzzing returned, this time a deeper rumble from the alley below. Marcus moved to the window and caught the shadow of a black SUV idling beneath the streetlight, its engine purring like a predator. He killed the apartment lights, heart pounding but movements precise, controlled. The encrypted phone vibrated once more. A new message blinked. They know about her. That sliced through him sharper than any blade. He snatched the bag, locked the door behind him, and slipped into the stairwell, muscles coiled as he descended. At street level, he scanned the darkness, every instinct alive. The SUV remained, but now the driver's door opened and a figure stepped out broad-shouldered, face hidden beneath a hood. Marcus pivoted into the shadows, weaving through alleys he'd memorized years ago during his off-the-book surveillance days. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, merging with the muted throb of bass from a nearby club. He pressed the burner phone to his ear and called Clara again. Still no answer. His mind raced. Who were they? What did they want? And why now? Old operations classified missions flickered in memory like photographs half burned. Had someone from those days resurfaced, seeking revenge? He reached an abandoned rail yard and ducked behind a rusted freight container, catching his breath. The encrypted phone lit up once more, but this time a voice mechanical distorted filtered through the speaker. You left unfinished business, Ranger. We finish it for you. Unless you bring us what's ours. Marcus clenched the device, fury and dread knotting his gut. I don't know who you are, he said, voice low, but if you touch her... A sharp click ended the call, leaving only the echo of his own threat. For a long moment he stared at the dark city skyline, the taste of iron thick in his mouth. He had sworn never to return to the world of covert games and blood debts, but they had found him, and worse. They had found Clara. The hunt had already begun. Marcus steadied his breathing, forcing his mind to the icy clarity that had kept him alive in combat zones where a single misstep meant death. He slipped the burner phone into his pocket and began moving through the maze of the rail yard, choosing a path that kept him cloaked in darkness. Each step stirred memories he'd buried, deep missions where betrayal had been as lethal as bullets, nights when every shadow seemed to breathe. He tapped out Clara's number again. This time, after an agonizing pause, her voicemail answered, her bright recorded greeting a cruel reminder of how young she still was. He whispered a short message. Stay where you are. Do not open the door for anyone. I'm coming. He ended the call before the surge of fear in his voice betrayed him. In his mind, he replayed every classified operation from his Ranger years, searching for a loose thread. One name kept surfacing like an oil slick, Colonel Jensen, the ruthless strategist who'd used Marcus's unit for covert extractions that never made it into official reports. Years ago, Marcus had refused an order that crossed a moral line, a decision that ended his military career. Could Jensen be the ghost behind tonight's threats? The idea hardened into grim probability. He exited the rail yard through a crumbling side gate and melted into the city's underbelly, heading toward Clara's location with the speed of a man racing fate itself. The streets pulsed with late-night energy neon lights bleeding across wet pavement, drunken laughter echoing off brick walls, but Marcus felt none of it, only the throb of danger at his back. When a pair of headlights swept over him from behind, he ducked into an all-night laundromat, slipping between humming machines as two men in dark jackets passed the window, scanning. His instincts screamed that they weren't random night owls. He waited until they disappeared, then exited through a rear door into a narrow alley choked with steam from a vent. The burner phone buzzed again, a photo message of Clara, clearly taken from outside the friend's apartment, time-stamped just seconds ago. Rage flared through him, hot and precise. They were closing in on her faster than he'd feared. He called a trusted contact from his past, a fellow veteran named Elena who ran private security consulting. "Need a rapid extraction, north side," he murmured. "Unmarked." "No questions," she responded without hesitation. "ETA 15. Sending a clean vehicle." "Location?" He rattled off an intersection near Clara's building and killed the call. Moving swiftly now, he cut across a deserted park where the moonlight silvered the benches and empty playground. Every sound sharpened, the rustle of leaves, the distant bark of a dog, the faint hiss of tires on wet asphalt. He pictured Clara as he'd last seen her, laughing in the kitchen while making pancakes that morning, and the image only tightened his resolve. As he neared the apartment block, he spotted a black SUV idling half a block away, its windows opaque. Two silhouettes sat inside. He circled wide, slipping through a back entrance he knew from previous visits. Inside, the stairwell smelled of dust and old paint. He climbed silently, ears tuned to every creak of the structure. Reaching the door of Clara's friend's apartment, he knocked softly with their secret pattern, 3 quick taps, a pause, then 2. After a tense beat, the door opened a crack and Clara's wide eyes appeared. Relief washed through him when she whispered, "Dad?" He stepped inside quickly, bolting the door. The friend, a college roommate named Jess, hovered in the background, pale and worried. Marcus held Clara close for a brief heartbeat, then scanned the small apartment, noting every entry point. "We're leaving now," he said quietly. He outlined a plan with swift efficiency, instructing Jess to stay inside and keep the lights off. As they prepared to move, a muffled sound, perhaps a footstep, echoed from the hallway. Marcus motioned Clara behind him, weapon drawn. A shadow passed under the doorframe. The silence stretched thin as wire until the sound faded, but the message was clear. They were surrounded, and the night was far from over. Marcus kept his back to the door, senses sharpened to a fine edge as Clara clung to his arm. The distant hum of the building's boiler masked subtle noises, floorboards settling, an elevator ding, but he caught the faint scrape of rubber solace on linoleum, a sound that didn't belong. He eased Clara toward the small kitchen and whispered, "Stay low. Stay quiet." From his jacket he retrieved a tiny fiber-optic camera and slid it beneath the door's edge. The hallway feed flickered on his phone screen. 2 figures in dark tactical clothing stood just beyond the corner, their postures coiled like predators waiting for a signal. Marcus's pulse hammered, but his breathing stayed steady. He needed a diversion, something to buy a few seconds. His eyes swept the apartment and landed on a can of cooking spray and a lighter. In seconds he'd rigged a crude flamethrower, tucking it near the door as a last resort. He texted Elena their new location and received an instant reply. "Extraction van 3 blocks east. Window closing in 10. Time to move." He guided Clara toward the fire escape, stepping carefully to avoid squeaking floorboards. Jess remained crouched by the couch, phone in hand, eyes wide. Marcus signaled for silence and opened the window, the cool night air spilling in. Just as Clara swung a leg over the ledge, a metallic crash from the hallway shattered the tense quiet. The attackers had forced the stairwell door. Marcus pushed Clara onto the fire escape and followed, pulling the window shut behind them. They descended quickly, the steel rungs vibrating under their weight. A flashlight beam sliced across the alley below. One of the pursuers had already anticipated the escape. Marcus dropped the last few feet, landing in a crouch and drawing his weapon. A figure stepped from the shadows, but before he could fire, a tranquilizer dart hissed past Marcus and struck the man in the neck. The assailant collapsed silently. Elena emerged from behind a dumpster, tranquilizer gun in hand, her dark eyes calm but urgent. "We have to go," she said, ushering them toward an unmarked gray van idling with the engine low. They climbed in, and the van peeled away just as the apartment door above burst open and angry shouts echoed into the night. Inside the van, Clara clutched her father's arm, trembling. Marcus squeezed her hand, promising silently that he would end this nightmare. Elena sped through side streets, her driving precise and aggressive. "Who's after you?" she asked, her voice low. Marcus gave a quick rundown of the cryptic messages and his suspicion about Colonel Jensen. Elena's jaw tightened. "If it's Jensen, he's not working alone. I've heard rumors -- ops contractors running their own agenda. And if they want something, they don't stop." She handed Marcus a tablet showing satellite images of an old military depot on the city's outskirts. "I intercepted a burst transmission on a secure channel. Coordinates match this place. Looks like your friend Jensen is there." Marcus felt a cold certainty settle over him. "Then that's where it ends," he said. Clara looked up, fear flashing in her eyes. "Dad, what if it's a trap?" He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "It probably is," he admitted. "But we can't hide forever." Elena glanced at the rearview mirror. "I'll back you, but we need a plan." "Jensen won't come quietly." Marcus studied the depot's layout on the tablet, memorizing entrances and guard rotations as adrenaline sharpened his focus. The night outside deepened, the city lights fading as they drove toward the shadowed outskirts. Inside the van, father and daughter shared a silent vow. Whatever waited ahead, they would face it together. The van rolled to a silent stop on a gravel road just short of the abandoned depot, its rusted corrugated steel walls looming like a fortress under a slice of moonlight. Marcus peered through the windshield, scanning the perimeter. 2 spotlights arced across the cracked asphalt, and a pair of sentries in tactical black paced lazily, but armed with heavy rifles. He felt Clara's hand tighten around his and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "Stay close to Elena," he whispered. Elena handed Marcus a compact earpiece and a pair of night vision goggles, her own movements economical and sure. "Security grid's patchy," she murmured. "We've got a 5-minute window if we jam their cameras now." Marcus nodded, heart thrumming with a soldier's familiar anticipation, and slipped from the van into the cold night. They crouched behind a stack of shipping pallets as the faint buzz of an electric generator filled the air. Clara followed every step, eyes wide but determined, her breath small clouds in the chill. Elena disabled the outer fence alarm with a portable disruptor, and they slid through a cut in the chain link, the metallic scrape barely audible. Inside, the depot smelled of oil and damp concrete. Echoes of distant machinery hinted at hidden activity. Marcus guided Clara down a shadowed corridor, each footfall a careful whisper, until the faint murmur of voices reached them. Through a sliver of light from a cracked door, Marcus saw Colonel Jensen standing beside a makeshift command table cluttered with laptops and encrypted radios. Jensen's face, half lit by the glow of screens, carried the calm arrogance Marcus remembered from their service days. "We move at dawn," Jensen was saying. The data package is almost ours. No loose ends. Marcus's jaw tightened. This was about stolen military intel, and somehow Clara and he had become leverage. As if sensing the tension, Clara shifted slightly, her shoe brushing the floor with the smallest squeak. Jensen's head snapped toward the door. "Who's there?" he barked, reaching for a sidearm. Marcus pushed the door open and stepped in, weapon raised. "It ends tonight, Jensen." For a heartbeat, the room froze. Then chaos erupted. One guard lunged, but Marcus ducked and drove an elbow into the man's ribs, sending him sprawling. Elena burst through behind him, tranquilizer gun hissing. Clara stood just inside the doorway, refusing to back down despite the danger. Jensen aimed at Marcus, but Marcus anticipated, twisting aside as the shot cracked and splintered a control panel. Marcus charged, years of combat training igniting muscle memory, and slammed Jensen against the table. They grappled, the room echoing with the clash of fists and overturned equipment. Sparks flew from a dislodged cable, bathing the struggle in blue light. Finally, Marcus pinned Jensen's arm, disarmed him, and forced him to the ground as Elena secured the remaining guards. Clara, her eyes wide with fierce pride, stepped closer. "It's over," Marcus said, breath heavy, the weight of the night pressing in. Sirens wailed in the distance, Elena's backup, summoned by a silent signal. Jensen glared up, defeated. "You can't stop the network," he spat, but his words lacked conviction. Moments later, federal agents stormed the depot, weapons drawn, and took Jensen and his crew into custody. The adrenaline drained from Marcus all at once. He turned to find Clara at his side, her small hand slipping into his. "You kept me safe," she whispered. He knelt to her level, eyes wet with relief. "You kept me strong," he replied. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky with pale gold, Marcus felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. The nightmare was over, but the bond he and Clara forged through the long night of danger would outlast every shadow. Weeks later, the city felt softer, washed clean by spring rain and the quiet hum of normal life returning. Marcus sat on the porch of their small townhouse, the morning sun catching the edges of his neatly pressed shirt as Clara twirled barefoot in the dewy grass, humming a tune she had made up herself. Neighbors waved as they passed, unaware of the night that had almost stolen everything. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee drifted through the screen door, and Elena's laugh floated from the kitchen as she updated Marcus on Jensen's trial life sentence, no parole. Marcus watched Clara chase a butterfly and felt a fullness in his chest he hadn't known since his military days. Not the tense satisfaction of a mission completed, but a deeper peace, a homecoming to something more permanent. Clara dashed back, her cheeks flushed, and climbed onto his lap. "Daddy," she said softly, resting her head against his shoulder. "We're safe now, right?" Marcus kissed the top of her hair, the weight of every promise he'd ever make to her, settling like a vow in his heart. "Always," he whispered. And as the sun climbed higher, warming them both, Marcus knew this was the life worth fighting for, the quiet, enduring strength of love that no darkness could ever take.